with issues in the war. And it was the first time in my life that I saw him at peace for several hours prior to his patira. But as we've mentioned before, although he departs from this world biologically childless, he departs as the patriarch of our family. He neither lived or died alone. As you've heard, Putu was born in a town of Tokai in 1923, just about a half-hour drive, a horse and wagon ride from Bodrog, where he met Neni. He came onto this world on Yud Beis Elul, Erev Shabbos, Parshas Kiseitze. He departed from us, Yud Beis Elul, Matzah Shabbos, Parshas Kiseitze. I checked it up on HeatCal today. He didn't have an easy life by any stretch of the imagination. As the youngest of several children, none of whom would survive the war, as we've heard, Putu lost his mother on June 10th, 1936, just 2 months shy of his bar mitzvah. In the summer of 1944, he was captured by the Nazis and forced to work on the railroads, as my brother mentioned. His job was to open the doors of the cattle cars and provide some bread and water to those doomed souls en route to Auschwitz. It was during one of those occasions where, upon opening the doors of the cattle cars, he saw his father, Shimon, one of the so-called cattle car passengers. Closing the doors to that cattle car, literally sending his father to the death camps, would ultimately be his final encounter with his father. Those of us who knew Putu intimately knew that he suffered with these demons and nightmares for the rest of his life, which is why last night, the peace and tranquility for the several hours prior to his patira was something that was comforting to all of us. Since Neni had her stroke 10 months ago, our family has banded together to be there for both Neni and Putu in their times of need, just like they dropped everything time and time again in our times of need. Neni and Putu were married for 64 years. And although Putu did not express his love in the form of diamonds or mink coats, Neni was his life. He just could not cope in the end. He just could not cope without her at her side. For the first several months after Neni suffered her stroke and before Putu agreed to a full-time companion, our family took turns staying with Putu at his house for 24-hour shifts, 7 days a week. He was afraid to sleep alone, and so we'd sleep in the bed next to him. And night after night, he'd go to bed crying the same prayer to Hashem. Hashem Yisburach, Hab Rachmunis, Geb Rafir Shalayma Ziman Bar, Etel Bas Brucha, soll sie kennen nach Heimkommen, and soll mich kennen leben, Beshulam, for noch 5 Jahre. For another 5 years, I should live with my wife, Etel Bas Brucha. Ich bete dich, Bashefer, lass man wart zurück heimkommen. Ich will aufgegeben mein ganzes Vermögen. I would give up all my possessions, which is something that's not easily said by Putu. As ich kann leben mit dir noch 5 Jahre. All he asked was for 5 more years to live with Neni. Unfortunately, his bakasha to live together with Neni for another 5 years would not be fulfilled. But the buckets of tears that he cried for Neni's recovery have certainly resonated to the depths, or the heights of the heavens. When the family gathered at Lutheran Hospital immediately after learning that Neni was rushed there with a cerebral hemorrhage, we were told by the doctors that she would likely not survive the first 72 hours. Putu, with his trademark survivor stubbornness, said, "The doctors don't know what they're talking about. Stay with her there, talk with her, and make sure she knows you're with her." Hope you understand what I said. She remained in a semi-conscious state on a respirator for 6 months, while we, as shluchim for Putu, continued with our work to bring Neni back home, as he had wished. Then, after 6 months, and an abundance of siyata d'shmaya, she began to awaken. Today, Nani is off the respirator for up to 18 hours a day. She's alert and recognizes her family. She's able to understand and respond to simple commands and questions by shaking her head yes and no, and by hand and facial gestures. And for all of us who knows Nani's facial gestures and hand gestures, we know exactly what she's talking about sometimes. 2 weeks ago, the doctors decided that she was ready to be fitted with the Casimiro valve on her trach, which basically allows her to begin to actually talk and have speech therapy and regain the ability to speak her words of wisdom that we so miss. So Putu, although your entire bakasha did not come true, you were nevertheless a gitta beta during your lifetime, and we beg you to continue being a gitta beta now that you'll be even closer to Hashem. And Putu, I will never forget the memories, the fond memories we shared together. I remember growing up together in the same house with you and Nani at 1236 50th Street. We were upstairs, you were downstairs. I remember the weekly Shabbos morning performances my sister Palakala and I used to make for you, Putu, and Nani downstairs in your bedroom. I'm told afterwards it was like 5 in the morning, a little bit too early, and we did it on Yom Kippur as well. But nevertheless, you made us feel like movie stars. And that was always their modus operandi. When we needed a compliment, we went to Nani and Putu's house. You look so good. A little bit fat, but you look so good. I remember, Putu, I remember you walking me to my first day of nursery school at Be'er Shmuel Yeshiva on 50th Street, between 14 and 15. And Putu, I thank you because I remember you walking me back from the yeshiva when I put up a fit and cried and didn't want to go. So thank you for bringing me back from yeshiva. I remember also you bringing me to your buildings and showing me how to check on the oil burners, but even more astonishingly, how to fix an oil burner and anything else with electrical tape. That's all you need, electrical tape. I remember watching you, Putu, and Blobachi, those who remember Blobachi, build us our new 3-bedroom apartment when we grew out of our 50th Street apartment and moved into your new home on 15th Avenue. I remember in the later years when I was in yeshiva in South Fallsburg and in Lakewood, my friends and I always had a place to crash by Nani and Putu's house. We camped out on the floor. We had Nani's famous tuna and pickle sandwiches. It was to die for. And I remember our almost weekly Sunday night kosher delight dinners. This was after we were married. I was married in 1991. Nani was getting a little bit older and couldn't make the delicious goulash that she would normally make, and we'd take out, we'd bring in kosher delight, slip us 100. And sometimes between between all of us, between all the Greenbergers, that we were there almost on a weekly basis and sometimes converged all together, was almost 30 of us together. So it was never a quiet house, Putu. And as they say, where there's love in the heart, there's love in the home. Some people express love in different ways, but Putu, we know that you loved us and we love you. When it came to love, 1236 50th Street put the BP gusher to shame. On behalf of our entire family, we will always be thankful to you for the love and kindness you have showed us over all these years. We love you, Putu. You leave a void in our hearts, and we will miss you forever. Thank you.
I will ask, I think it's the last and final speaker. Putu is only family member that I know in America for sure. I don't know of any other family member. Rabbi Moshe Weisberg should say a couple of words in the name, the COVID of the project. Yeah.
Tell us that the neshama of the nifter is here, right now, with us. Until the actual kavura, the neshama hovers around the aura. So the Putu, we're talking to you. Because the real life of you, which is the neshama, is here with us. Rather, you're attending, and I'm attending a Levaya, and I have to say that I had a lot of nachas from this Levaya. We have a pasuk in this week's parsha. It says, "Baruch atov b'voyecho, Baruch atov b'seisecho." You are blessed when you come, and you are blessed when you leave. There's a lot of chazal on that pasuk. They say, "Baruch atov b'voyecho." As you enter this life, you are noki, you are pure, b'li chet, you have no sins. Baruch atov b'seisecho. When you leave this world, Halavai should be able to set of you with your same blessing that you had when you came into this life, we can say about you when you leave this life. Some Fursha Chazal. I talk about worry a lot of many times, and when I realized how ill you were, how sick you were, and you know this inevitable. Will this apply to you? There are no children. I didn't know that much about you. In actuality, I knew you from the day you came to this country because I brought you to this country. When the war was over, it was very difficult to bring anybody who wouldn't fit into a certain quota system. But there were exceptions to the rule, and one of them was yeshiva students. I talked to my yeshiva, the Torah Vadas, which I'm extremely grateful, have always been, for helping me out with the necessary documentation and the necessary, they knew he was not going to be a student in the yeshiva, but they gave me the proper documentation that allowed me to bring Putu and Isla to this country. How do we know that they were even there? Somehow Putu remembered that he had a Shomu Bachi, my father-in-law Shalom, in the Edenany in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And he wrote a letter